Hello again, gamers. Welcome back for another episode of Grokking Battletech. I'm your host, the board game Captain, and today I'm going to be telling you how to grok, how to play the King Crab. So I want to give a big thank you to a couple of my regular viewers who requested that I cover the King Crab in an episode of Grokking Battletech. Sam H. and David Kyo. These people requested I cover this mech in this episode, so this episode is for you. Before I get too into this, I do want to say I've got a ton of links in the description down below that you can check out at your leisure. There's a link to BoardGameCaptain.com, which is a great hub for all things Board Game Captain. There's also a link to my Teespring store where you can get yourself some cool Board Game Captain merch, like this t-shirt I'm wearing here that says I drink and I game, it's what I do, and it has a D20 and a mug of ale on it, as well as others. And if you're in a position to and would like to support the channel, there is a link to my Patreon, all in the description down below. Okay, so the King Crab. The King Crab is one of my favorite mechs in all of the Succession War time period. It was one I immediately gravitated to, and let's be honest, it's all about the two autocannon 20s with this thing. Combined with the fact that also I have always been a fan of the digitigrade mechs, the ones that kind of have what some people refer to as reverse knee joints. I've always been a big fan of those style of mechs versus the ones that look more humanoid. So I was immediately drawn to the look as well as the tactics of the King Crab. The King Crab is a 100-ton beast built around a pair of autocannon 20s. And most of the versions of the King Crab keep that same sort of feeling, though there are some variations on it. So without much further ado, let's get into it. So the first version of the King Crab I want to talk about is what most people usually think of as the default version of the King Crab. It is the King Crab KGC 0000, which the 40 version is supposed to be the Succession War downgraded version, removing some of the Star League era tech that was in the 000, which we're going to talk about in a minute when I get to the 000. But generally, I think of this as really the default version of the King Crab, because this is the one that a lot of people are introduced to first because it is the main Succession War era version. This is a 100-ton beast with a walking speed of 3, a running speed of 5, pretty standard for an assault mech. A ludicrous amount of armor, and I really mean that. I love how well armored this thing is. It has 39 armor in the center torso, 29 on each side torso, 33 on each arm, and 34 on each leg. And then for the rear torso sections, you have 12 on the center torso and 10 on each side. So it can even take some hits from something that gets in behind it, which is good because this is a mech that likes to get up close and personal and mix it up. So there is a chance of something getting behind it. And you know what? If something gets behind you and shoots at you in the rear armor with anything smaller than an autocannon 20, you're probably going to be okay for a round of taking hits back there. Maybe even more if you get lucky and they hit you in the leg or the arm instead, which of course have much better armor than your rear torso sections. Now, the firepower of this thing is where it really shines. You have a autocannon 20 in the right torso / right arm and another one in the left torso / left arm. It goes through two sections, which these things are brutal. Autocannon 20s aren't very long range. The max range is only 9 hexes away, so you got to get pretty close to use them. You've got 6 hexes for medium range, 3 hexes for short, but they do 20 damage in one spot. Hitting a direct hit on a light mech will rip it in half. A lot of medium mechs will rip it in half. And, you know, the pair of them blasting away on heavy and assault mechs are even fairly likely to blow it apart. If you manage to get 2 center torso shots on this on most heavy mechs, you'll cripple it in one shot. Plus, of course, these are definitely head-capping weapons. In addition, you've got a large laser in the right torso for some energy-based weaponry, and an LRM-15 in the left torso to give you some long-range cluster hits. You know, maybe you hit something with those autocannon 20s in it, and you're managing to stay at like a medium range with it. You can also fire in those LRM-15 shots to find the holes you have made in their armor. It has 15 single heat sinks. Again, this is a Succession War era mech, so 15 single heat sinks is pretty normal. If anything, it's actually a fairly good amount of heat sinking capacity, but it does mean that if you fire everything, including that large laser, which is the most heat-causing weapon, causing 8 heat, 7 from the autocannon 20s, and 5 from the LRM-15, you're gonna overheat. So you're gonna wanna occasionally not fire some of your hotter weapons, especially the large laser, because generally speaking, with having 15 heat sinking capacity, you can fire both autocannon 20s and walk without gaining any heat, and if you run, you only gain 1 heat. On the other hand, if you're firing either the large laser or the LRM-15, you're going to heat up pretty quickly, so you got to be careful of that. But otherwise, yeah, this is a phenomenal succession war mech. It does have a heat issue, but most mechs in this succession war time period have a heat issue. So, and there aren't very many mechs that can punch out this kind of firepower. You do have other mechs with autocannon 20s in that time period, but I don't think there's any others with 2 autocannon 20s, which is ludicrous. Spoiler alert, this is my favorite version of the King Crab. And specifically, even though there are later versions that are way more powerful, better defensively, etc., the reason this one is my favorite is how much it stands out amongst its fellows of the time period. Because in the Succession War time period, yeah, this is just brutal. This version of the King Crab is absolutely brutal. And generally speaking, I would usually take it over a Succession War era Atlas just about any day. The next version of the King Crab I want to talk about is the KGC-010. Now, this is a Star League era version of the King Crab, and this is one that a lot of the tech for it was lost during the Succession War time period, so it's not one you're going to see really much in the Succession Wars, though it can show back up again later on. And this is one that's often overlooked, in my opinion, because since you're not really able to play with the 010 in the Succession War time period, during the Clan Invasion time period, people usually go for certain other versions of the King Crabs. And I think it's kind of criminally overlooked and underrated because this is actually a really good mech. So this is got a 46 armor in the center torso, 32 in each side torso, 34 in each arm, 41 on each leg, and then in the rear, you've got 10 on each side torso and 15 on the center torso, which, again, though, this version actually doesn't need to get in as close and mix it up, but just in case something gets behind you, you're very well protected from all sides. Now, you've got the walking speed of 3 and running of 5 that's pretty standard for King Crabs, but this version is more of a long-range fire support, or at least medium-range fire support. So it comes with a pair of PPCs, 1 each in the right and left torso, and then a pair of LB-10X autocannons, 1 in each of the arms, and then a pair of SRM-6s also in the right and left torso. So in addition, this thing has counted 6 tons of ammo for those autocannon 10s, which is a lot. That is 60 shots, so, or 30 turns of shooting with both, and it's a 50-50 mix of cluster rounds and non-cluster rounds. So the reason this is so freaking awesome is that you can first punch away with those PPCs and LB-10X autocannons with the solid shots, doing basically as much damage as some of the better versions of the Awesome with its 4 PPCs to an enemy mech at range. And then once you punch some holes in their armor, you can get a little closer and start shooting with the SRM-6s and the cluster rounds from the LBX autocannons and finding those holes. This is actually a very decent version of the King Crab. I like it a lot. So the next one I want to talk about is, of course, another one of the rediscovered ones from the Star League era. It is the 000, the one that the 000 is based on. This version, again, you've got the 2 autocannon 20s, the large laser, the LRM-15, the 3.5. Very similar armor capacity, 40 in the center torso, 30 on the sides, 34 on the arms, 35 on the legs, 15 on the center rear torso, 12 on each side torso there. You also have ferrofibrous armor to make some more room, to free up some weight for extra ammo, extra armor, hence why its armor is a little better, as well as case systems. It's got a case system in the right and left torso, still 15 single heat sinks. So now this one, everything that was good about the 000 is still good about this one. This one's definitely a better version of the 0000. However, one thing that's a bit of a head scratcher for me on this one is the lack of double heat sinks. I really would have liked this one to have double heat sinks, and it does not. Other than that, it's fantastic. It's a really good mech. Now the next one is the Clan Buster one. This one is from the Clan Invasion time period. This is the 001. So this one is a significant redesign. We've got 43 armor on the center torso, 30 on each side torso, 34 on the arms, 40 on the legs, and in the rear, center, 15, sides, 10. Again, what you would expect from a King Crab. It's got a movement of 3-5, but now where it differs is in the firepower. We have 2 Gauss rifles, 1 in each arm. We have a Streak SRM-2 in the left torso and another in the right torso. We have an LRM-15 in the left torso. That's something you are used to. And then instead of the large laser, we have a large pulse laser in the right torso. So the main difference, of course, is we've gotten rid of the SRM-6s that are common in a lot of the other versions and swapped them out with Streak SRM-2s. And of course, we've swapped the autocannon 20s for Gauss rifles, which are, you know, still head capping weapons, 5 points damage less than the autocannon 20s, but a lot better range. These things can reach out and touch someone at 22 hexes away, which makes a lot of sense since this is a fairly slow mech. This version is meant to fight clan mechs, which are a lot faster and can keep their distance. This is meant to reach out and touch them and cripple them at a long range. Now, some downsides, though, this has an extra light fusion engine, which means, of course, you're going to be more vulnerable to those side torso destructions. And also, big head scratcher here, this is a Clan Invasion era refit without double heat sinks. Why they didn't put the double heat sinks in this is a complete loss on me. It's got 13 single heat sinks. I think they should have just gone with instead 10 double heat sinks personally. But yeah, that's something I would definitely do a easy, quick redesign on, is switch the 13 single heat sinks in for 10 double heat sinks, because this mech, and I've used this mech quite a bit, this version has a heat problem that it has trouble overcoming. Next, I want to talk about the KGC-005. It's a Civil War version of the King Crab. So this one is a version that has an improved C3 CPU. So this is one for making improved C3 networks. You still have a ton of armor, 44 on the center torso, 30 on the sides, 34 on the arms, 40 on the legs, 10 on the rear sides, 15 on the rear center. A lot of armor. This one also has 12 double heat sinks, so a lot of heat reduction, which is great. And we've changed the autocannon 20s for LB20X autocannons. We've got an ER large laser instead of the regular large laser, and 2 Streak SRM-4s. This is actually a lot of firepower, considering you had to put some weight into that C3 computer. And if you're making a C3 improved network, a C3I network, this mech is fantastic to be part of a C3I network. Absolutely awesome if you are playing in the Civil War time period or later. Next, we have a Jihad-era version, the KGC-007. This version is really awesome. I don't often play in the Jihad-era, but yeah, this is really great. So this one, we've got 45 armor on the center torso, 32 on the sides, 34 on the arms, 42 on the legs, 10 on each rear side, and 15 on the rear center. Again, 3-5 movement. This one has 11 double heat sinks, a little less heat sinking capacity, though it doesn't need it as much. It has a Streak SRM-6 on the center torso. It's got a plasma rifle to give some heat spikes to your enemy and 10 damage a shot on the left torso. It's got a light PBC, and it's got a rotary autocannon 5 in the right arm, and again, the same 2 guns in the left arm, which means this is a mech where you have another mech with big weapons to punch holes, another mech with Gauss rifles, or since it's the Jihad-era, heavy PPCs or autocannon 20s, and instead this one is to find the holes. With those light PPCs and the rotary autocannon 5s, this thing is going to pump out tons of little 5 points of damage here, there, and everywhere to find the holes that something else has made. If you are playing a large game against clan mechs, you could pair this up with another version of the King Crab, have 2 King Crabs in your 2 lances, 1 on each, where one punches the holes with 2 autocannon 20s or 2 Gauss rifles, and this one finds the holes with all of those little clusters of damage. Now, the next one I want to talk about is the KGC-008. So this one is another Jihad-era version, and they put jump jets on this sucker. This thing can jump 3 hexes. It's a 3-5-3 on the movement. Its armor is still really good. 46 on the center torso, 32 on each side, 34 on the arms, 42 on the legs, 10 on each rear side torso, and 16 on the rear center torso. It has 2 ER medium lasers in the head. It also has an improved C3 CPU. It has a Guardian ECM suite. It has 2 light autocannon 2s. Meh, those are not very good weapons, but it has 2 heavy PPCs. And it actually has 17 double heat sinks, which means that this thing can jump and fire both heavy PPCs without overheating, which makes this an amazing jumping assault mech. Those heavy PPCs, of course, doing 15 damage a pop without the worry of having ammo like you have to have with Gauss rifles, but still having a fairly decent range. They can fire up to 18 hexes away. This thing is absolutely deadly. Really, really good version. Next, we have the 008 Bravo, the 008B. This is a very similar to the other version. The main difference is we have downgraded the improved C3 computer to a C3 slave unit in order to fit some more case ammo protection in here. Yeah, so it's a slight difference, minor change, but everything that was good about the 008 is also good about the 008B, except that, of course, it would be in a regular C3 network and not an improved C3 network. So the next one I'm going to talk about is the 000B. This is a variation on the 000. This is a Star League era version, so we are going all the way back to the Star League for this one. And this one is an upgrade in every way of the 000. So first things first, the one complaint, remember, I had really about the 000 was the lack of double heat sinks. This one has it. We've got the 24 heat sinks. That is fantastic. In addition, we've got extra ammo for the autocannon 20s, which is nice, and an Artemis 4 for the LRM 15s. This thing is absolutely brutal, and for Star League era play, insane. And if you're playing like first succession war where you might actually have one of these, even though I think storyline-wise they all left with Kerensky when he went into unexplored space. But if you're playing early succession wars, you could probably justify having one of these before all of them were lost. And if you are, these things are going to absolutely clean up. They are insanely good. Next, I want to talk about the King Crab KGC-005R. So this one is another variant, but of course a variant of the 005. It is noted as being a Jihad-era field refit of the 005. So what they did was they removed a bunch of stuff. You downgrade the C3I computer to a C3 slave unit. They took off the large laser, one of the Streak SRM launchers, and half a ton of armor. That I'm not a big fan of. But, and this is what I am a big fan of, they were able to add on a heavy PPC. So the armor on this thing is 40 on the center torso, 30 on each side torso, 34 on each arm, 38 on each leg, and the rear stays the same, 10 on each rear side torso and 15 in the center. But you know what? The firepower on this thing is crazy, especially since it's going to be part of a C3 network. You've got a heavy PPC, the 2 LBX 20 autocannons, and a Streak SRM-4, all with 12 double heat sinks. That thing is brutal. So the next version I'm going to talk about really briefly is the KGC-009. This one is a much later time period than I usually play, so I've never had occasion to play with the 009. But it's got an autocannon 5 and a plasma rifle in each arm, as well as a 7-tube multi-missile launcher and a medium light laser in each of the side torsos. Now, I love plasma rifles, so I do think I would like this version if I played in that time period. It's a bit later than I normally play, but getting to do 10 damage and cause your opponent's heat to spike is really good, though this one does seem to be a bit of a downgrade in regard to the amount of damage output you have, though there are a lot of guns. There's a lot of stuff going on, and you know what, causing heat spikes is nothing to sneeze at. It is a strategy I personally often go with. There's a few more versions, again, late era versions. There's the 011 and the 20A. These are very late versions. The 011 apparently has a supercharger on its engine, 2 LB-20X autocannons and a plasma rifle, as well as a rocket launcher 15. Yeah, but so there are a ton of versions of these. They're generally fit into one of two categories. You've got ones that can stay back and fire long range like a normal assault mech, like the ones that have the heavy PPCs or the Gauss rifles, or they're the ones that want to get up close and mix it up with autocannon 20s at point blank range, which in my opinion work best in earlier time periods like the Succession Wars, or if you're playing the historical time period of the Star League era, because when playing later time periods, of course, you're going to be significantly outpaced by clan mechs, which are much faster than the 3.5 King Crab. But overall, I love the King Crab. I think the King Crab is a fantastic mech, and my favorite version, again, is the Quadruple Zero, because you can play it through the entirety of the Succession Wars. And in the Succession Wars, it is one of the most brutally lethal mechs in the entire time period. So now let's go over a custom version that I would make, a custom version of the King Crab. This is a version I've made for the Clan Invasion era. I wanted to make kind of an upgraded one of the 000 once the Star League era tech was rediscovered with the Helm Memory Core. So again, this is going to be a redesign of the 000. And this is a mech designed by my own personal mech design firm, KIWF, named after the last initial of each of its 4 founders, but affectionately nicknamed by its fans, Kill It With Fire. So this is the King Crab KGC 000 KIWF. So what did I do here? So the main thing I did was I wanted to do something that hadn't been done yet, and I wanted to fit a pair of Ultra Autocannon 20s on the King Crab, because you know what, they'd put Gauss rifles on them, they'd put heavy PPCs on them, but there are no versions with twin Ultra Autocannon 20s. So I basically took off all of the weapons and ammo that were already on there, and instead what I got was in the left torso and the right torso, I have 1 Ultra Autocannon 20 each. In the right torso, I also have a large pulse laser. In the left torso, I have 2 medium pulse lasers as the backup weapons for this mech. Now, I loaded all the ammo into the arms. There are 4 tons of ammo for the Ultra Autocannon 20s in the right arm and the left arm, but I kept the arms weapon free, because the idea here is that you're gonna be running in towards your enemy. When you get close enough, you're going to start walking instead of running and unloading with those Ultra Autocannons. And then if you get into melee, you're going to come in, you're going to fire those Ultra Autocannons and still be able to do the 1-2 punch, because you've got no guns on the arms with my version. And that's a big part of what it's about. Now, I know that having taken off the case systems as I had to do, while adding all the ammo to the arms, there is a glaring issue there, but the arms are fairly well armored with 34 armor a piece, so it will be tough for your enemy to rip through them if you're smart about it. In addition, because I'm figuring that you're going to be firing both Ultra Autocannon 20s on full auto, and you've got the 10 double heat sinks with 20 points of heat sinking capacity, so you can just keep firing those off along with some other weapons. You're going to eat through a lot of this ammo, and hopefully if your opponent gets a crit hit in there, I'm basically hoping they're going to hit one of the empty bins rather than one of the bins that's full of ammo and rip the arm completely off of that side of the mech. It is a bit of a gamble, but I think it's worth it. And you know what? The battle value is only 2,100 battle value because of removing the case systems as well as other factors. So this actually, in my opinion, works out pretty darn well, and I like this version, though I don't actually like it better in the Clan Invasion era than I like the Quadruple Zero for the Succession War era, because again, against the mechs it's going to face, I do feel like that is my favorite version of the King Crab. So let's go back to the King Crab 0000 with its twin autocannon 20s, large laser, and LRM-15. And in my opinion, this is the king of the Succession War battlefield. And what mech warrior would I put in it if I'm making a lance? So this is one where you've agreed to use mech warriors with your opponent, but and you tell your opponent, hey, what value mech warriors are we going to play with? And they look over and they see that King Crab and they're like, yeah, let's do cost 2 mech warriors to try to make sure you're not going to put something crazy in the King Crab, except that there is a cost 2 mech warrior that is insanely good in this version of the King Crab, and that is Mojtaba al-Hadid. Now, Mojtaba al-Hadid is a 2-cost mech warrior. He has one ability, which is Fire Fist, which of course is the ability that when you connect with a punch, you can then fire during the melee phase one direct ballistic or direct energy weapon in that arm with a -1 to the difficulty modifier for hitting, and if it hits, it will automatically hit in the same place as the fist. Now, this is fantastic because that means you're going to be doing essentially 30 damage points on a punch, because you're going to be very likely to hit, because Mojtaba has a gunnery skill of 1 and a piloting skill of 3. So as likely as you are to hit with the punch with that piloting skill of 3, you're even more likely to follow up and also hit with the autocannon 20 once you have hit with the punch, because you have a gunnery skill of 1 and you get a -1 to the difficulty. Now, yes, this is a bit of a risk, but in the scenario I'm laying out here, your opponent probably doesn't have anything crazier than your King Crab to give the gunnery skill of 1 and piloting skill of 3 to, so you're probably okay. They're probably going to be giving that to a lesser mech, and your King Crab is not going to be missing very often when shooting at things, and things he shoots at are going to die, which is going to be awesome. But for the Lance, what am I going to do? What kind of ability am I looking for the Lance, and what mechs am I going to back the King Crab up with? So first of all, I decided I wanted to make a Battle Lance, and the reason is the Battle Lance gives you those 6 rerolls that you can make throughout the game, and because of how important it is that the King Crab connects, you're going to want to use those rerolls, especially when you go to punch or follow up with an autocannon 20 hit after you punch, to make sure you do that 30 damage in one spot and rip a mech in half. So the requirements for the Battle Star is that, first of all, 50% of your mechs must be heavyweight or larger. The King Crab helps you with that because he is an assault mech. And then at least 3 units in the formation must also possess any combination of brawler, sniper, or skirmisher. The other 3 mechs I chose are all brawlers, so they thoroughly fill that out, and one of them is a heavy mech, so it means that 50% of your mechs are heavy or heavier. So you will get those 6 rerolls to either piloting or gunnery skill rolls throughout the game, which is awesome. And what mechs do I have to back up the King Crab Quadruple Zero? So the next mech is the Black Knight BL7 KNT. Now this version of the Black Knight is a Succession War era version. We've got, it's a big heavy energy boat mech. It's a brawler. It's got lots of firepower and a decent amount of heat sinking capacity, though like a lot of mechs in that time period, it can overheat if you want it to or if you're not careful. So the armor is pretty decent on this one too. You've got 25 on the center torso, 20 on each side torso, 20 on each arm, and 20 on each leg. 7 on each side rear torso, and 8 on the center rear torso. We've got 20 single heat sinks. We've got a movement of 4, walking, 6 running, which is really nice. And then we have a small laser in the head. We have a large laser in the right torso and another one in the left torso. We have a medium laser in the right torso and another one in the left torso. We have a PPC on the right arm, and we have a medium laser in the right arm and another one in the left arm. This mech is just covered in all of these lasers. So you're going to run in kind of tag teaming the enemy with the King Crab. The King Crab's going to punch the holes, and then this one is going to find the holes to get the crits if the King Crab doesn't actually just kill it outright. Now, to hang back a little bit at medium range and give you some fire support, we have the Centurion CN9A. Now, this is a really decent medium mech that comes in at a bargain value of 945 battle value. It is a 50-ton mech with a walking speed of 4, running speed of 6. Not as great in the armor capacity as the heavier mechs in this lance. It's got 18 on the center torso, 13 on each side torso, 16 in the arms, 16 in the legs, only 6 on each side rear torso, and 7 on the center. So you are going to have to be a little bit more careful with this mech than your 2 larger mechs. You're going to have to keep it moving and also maybe get some nice cover in forests or hide behind waist-high hills, level 1 hills to keep your opponent from taking out your Centurion too easily. It's got 10 single heat sinks. It has an autocannon 10 in the right arm, an LRM 10 in the left torso, and a medium laser in the center torso facing forward, and another one facing backward. This is a fairly decent amount of firepower for a medium mech, and again, is going to back up your big ol' King Crab, but at medium range, firing past your other 2 mechs that are hopefully distracting your enemy so they don't shoot at this more vulnerable mech. and finding those holes with the LRM-10, the medium laser, and punching holes of its own with the autocannon 10. Really, really decent medium mech. And finally, to do a bit of harassing and jumping around, we have the Panther PNT-9R. So this is a light 35-ton mech. It's got a very affordable battle value of 769 battle value, which helps it fit in with the other mechs, making a total of 5K battle value, because in the Succession War time period, I usually play 5K instead of 6K since the mechs are cheaper. The armor on this is a bit lighter, though. We've got 14 on the center torso, 10 on each side torso, 10 on each arm, 12 on each leg, 5 on each rear side torso, 7 on the rear center. Now, this is a light mech, and this is decent for a light mech, but you, again, similar to your Centurion, aren't going to want to draw too much attention. But it is a bit more maneuverable because we have a 4-6-4, so we have 4 jumping capacity. So once you make it up to some forest, you can jump from forest to forest and try to keep yourself well hidden and make it difficult for your enemy to hit you. It has 13 single heat sinks to absorb the heat from its 1 PPC and SRM-4. And a nice little trick I like to do with this mech is it has a single ton that is 25 shots of SRM-4 ammo in the left torso. And what I like to do is I'll replace that ammo with Inferno rounds. Because if your opponent goes through and gets that critical hit, being that there's no case systems in this time period, that could be bye-bye for your Panther. However, if you have Inferno rounds will only cause heat to your Panther, so it'll cause it to shut down, not kill it. And unless they spend another turn focusing in on it while it's shut down, your Panther might survive. In addition, getting in there and being able to make your opponent's heat spike with those Inferno rounds on occasion can be absolutely devastating, because if your opponent shuts down, well, you got a turn of twin autocannon 20 hell coming your way, and that could be absolutely brutal. So there you go. That is the Succession War era 5,000 battle value lance I have created for my King Crab 0000 that is piloted by Mojtaba Al-Haddad. So let me know, what did you guys think of my lance? What do you think of my favorite version of the King Crab? And what do you think of my custom version of the King Crab? If you have a different version of the King Crab that is your favorite, let me know in the comments down below which one is your favorite. Also, if you have any requests for mechs for me to cover in future episodes of Grokking Battletech, I am trying to focus in first on ones from earlier time periods, so please try to focus in on mechs either from the Succession War era, the Star League era, the Clan Invasion era, or the Civil War era. But I want to get through most of them before I move on to later eras. Feel free to request them in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this episode of Grokking Battletech and you'd like to see me do more like it, be sure to give this video a like, share it on all forms of social media, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Board Game Captain. That's Captain spelled with a K on YouTube. And until next time, game on.